Welcome to Decoding Retirement. Hi, I'm your host, Bob Powell, and today I'm joined by Annalee Kruger from CareRight. Annalee, welcome.
Thank you, Bob. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. The topic of the day, Annalee, is something that's in your wheelhouse. It's aging in America and caregiving. So let's start here. By 2030, all baby boomers will be age 65 or older, and that will mean that 1 in 5 Americans are now seniors. But there are a lot of misconceptions about aging in America. Help us separate the fact from the fiction here.
Sure. So there's quite a few different myths out there. So when we talk about aging in America, we are also talking about family caregivers, like family members are providing the bulk of caregiving to elderly loved ones. And that's manageable until it isn't. So when we talk about it not being manageable, we've got adult kids flying from state to state every time mom or dad has a fall or a medical crisis and they're in the hospital. So you've got, son or daughter in New York and mom and dad in Tucson, Arizona. And as we age, none of us get more healthy, none of us get more mobile, none of us get more cognizant. And so we've got this aging nation, adult kids getting thrust into the role of family caregiving without usually having any kind of conversation about the what whens of aging, let alone having an aging plan in place. And just that back and forth constantly from every time I call them a rescue mission. That's not sustainable for you if you're a business owner, if you're an employee. At some point, your colleagues or your boss will say you can't keep playing the caregiver card, because they need you to be at work and focused at work instead of, oh my gosh, I have to leave again for 2 weeks because mom fell. The other issue is we have a lot of single children. They don't have any siblings, and so there's a lot of pressure on that only child to now have to be, power of attorney for finances and health care, and the bulk of everything is on their shoulders. Their parents' well-being, they're coordinating their care, they're being their care advocate, they're on the phone for hours with insurance companies. This caregiving snowball becomes very unsustainable very quickly. We also, and I know we'll talk about this a little bit more in detail, but dementia is not going away anytime soon. And so you've got adult children who would probably love to spend more time and be able to see their parents as well, but they're missing the red flags that their parents are actually failing at home. Meaning, when they do go and check with their parents or go visit with their parents, the kids are blindsided that, oh my gosh, mom has lost 20 pounds, or she looks terrible, or dad didn't recognize me. And on the phone, he sounds like he's okay for the 10 minutes that we talk. So kids get blindsided because they're not seeing or they're missing the red flags that their parents are not doing well at home. Again, whether it's weight loss, falls, hospital stays, anytime there's ER visits or hospitalizations, that should be an automatic and a no-brainer that, hey, mom and dad are going in the wrong direction here. This is all kind of that normal aging. Let's start talking about the what whens of aging now as a family, sort out those care options and know how much care is going to cost, so that as parents continue to decline and age, kids are much more, and families that in general are much more emotionally, financially, and physically prepared for that aging journey.
Right.
Caregiving again.
So I know that there's a lot of physical, emotional, and cognitive changes that take place over the course of someone's retirement. We know that many adults want to age in place or age in community. And we know that there can be modifications made to a home to make that happen. What's your thought on people, whether or not they should age in place?
Yeah, that's actually where I was heading next. So good,
Oh.
good job. You
You
think
have to
we've
give
done
me
this time or
you
two?
have to give me an opportunity to ask a question now and then. I can't let you riff for the whole time.
Oh, but there's so much people need to know. So when I ask our clients, our CareRight clients, what are your goals as you age? Mom and dad always say the same thing. I want to age in place at home and I don't want to be a burden on my kids. Well, that's fine. And those are great goals, except that how senior safe is your house? If you live in a split level and you've got stairs no matter where you turn, that's probably not, that's not going to be the best setup.
Yeah, it's pretty
Or
age unfriendly, right?
it's, yeah, it's not senior safe. Or, your washer and dryer's in the basement, or, you've got old carpet because you never, like stretched it or replaced it. And now they've got bumps in the carpet. Like there's all these things that prevent people from being safe at home. And so there are home modifications that can be done, like showers and walk-in showers and higher toilets and toilet risers and shower chairs and all that kind of stuff. However, and you can senior safe your house if you want to, and spend that money. And it's important to just really cost everything out. So there are certified aging in place specialists who are basically contractors who can come into the house and say, okay, for X amount of thousands of dollars, we can senior safe your house. How much money, what is your financial runway to be able to stay at home? Knowing that home care, when people say they want to age in place at home, what they're not realizing, or they're not fast forwarding in their mind, is aging in place at home means you want to stay there until you die, no matter what. So most of us are going to need 24/7 care because we don't get healthier as we age. And when that time comes that you're needing more and more care for bathing, dressing, grooming, toileting, all of those things, driving, medication management, that comes with a price tag. My clients who are aging in place at home are spending upwards of $30,000 per month, and that's just with one parent. Say you've got two aging parents, or since the audience here is advisors, say you've got two elderly clients and they're trying to age in place at home. You don't necessarily get to, Ethel and Marvin don't necessarily get to share that caregiver. If your client is if the husband is 6'4", his wife is 5'2", and she has dementia and he had a stroke, they're likely going to need two or three caregivers at some point 24/7. And that's what kind of jacks that rate of home care up. So as advisors, you want to think about, what is that financial runway? How long can your client simply afford to do that, so that they're not jeopardizing their future care options in a decent or a quality care community?
Yeah. So you mentioned $30,000 a month. We often tell people to look at the Genworth cost of care website to get a sense of what they could expect to pay for in-home health aides or nursing homes or assisted living facilities. That number of $30,000 is far in excess of what someone might read on the Genworth cost of care website, which might say
Yeah.
$20 or $25 an hour for a qualified home health aide.
I'm very aware of that. I've been very vocal. And I don't want Jen Worth calling me going, who do you think you are? And I'll be like, who do you think you are? Like, these are not accurate numbers at all. They're woefully, woefully outdated.
Yeah. So you've mentioned in the past that COVID-19 has exposed some vulnerabilities in elder care. What are those vulnerabilities?
Several. Cost of care is doubled, or if not tripled. That's why now, since COVID, that's why those numbers on that Genworth site are woefully, terribly wrong. And if that's what advisors are using as a benchmark, you're going to have really ticked off clients, because that's just not reality. Those are not correct numbers. So COVID-19 has really negatively impacted the senior care, all industries, but the healthcare industry. We have, before COVID, you used to be able to budget $18 to $25, $28 an hour for home care. But now my clients are paying $40, $50, $60 an hour, depending on where they live, for an hour of home care. And that doesn't mean that you're getting more quality caregivers. That just means that's how much it costs now. And so we've got a massive shortage of home care and a massive shortage of quality healthcare workers in general. And that's part of what's driving up that rate. For clients who want to age in place at home, that's great if they can afford it, but that may also take two or three home care companies basically partnering together to be able to staff those 24/7 shifts, because we have such massive shortage of healthcare workers. From a care community perspective, the impact COVID has had is I have never in my 30-year career ever seen so much senior leadership turnover. When COVID hit and we seasoned people in healthcare could see the writing on the wall, a lot of executive directors who were kind of fairly close to retirement was like, I'm leaving my career on a high note. I'm going to just take early retirement, because they already could tell what kind of house of cards the healthcare industry was even before COVID, and now it's even worse. So when you have massive turnover in leadership in executive director and like care manage, like director of nursing, executive director, administrator, it can be the wild, wild west in these care communities or with these home care companies, because if there's no quality or consistent leadership and management and supervision, of course the staff are going to do whatever they want to. That's why when you walk through care communities, you see the CNAs or the healthcare workers who are working the floor with earbuds in, or they're on their phone all the time, because there's no proper supervision. We also have, what also is helping drive up the cost is because care facilities have to maintain certain staffing levels based on their census to remain compliant with state requirements. Many healthcare workers or many senior care facilities are also using registry care workers to fill shifts. Well, that doesn't mean that these temporary staff actually know the resident. Of course, they're not going to know the resident. They're not going to be necessarily reading through the care plan to know that Ethel needs her compression hose on, and she has this whole routine that she likes. And so we have, inconsistent staffing because there's such a shortage of healthcare workers out there.
Yeah.
So those are just a couple of big ones. And then the third one, in my opinion, is I've also never seen so many mergers and acquisitions and turnover in corporate in the senior care industry. So we've got all these different care facilities being bought up by other bigger care facilities, and that transition isn't always very smooth.
Yeah. Annalee, we're going to have to take a short break in a second, but as you're talking, I'm thinking you make aging in place sound terrible, and you make aging in a care facility sound terrible as well. So we're going to take a short break, but first we're going to answer a reader question in a segment that we call Ask Bob, and when we come back, we'll talk with Annalee more about caregiving and developing an aging plan. So the reader's question goes like this. How does Social Security determine what the cost of living adjustment will be on my Social Security benefit? And the answer is this. Social Security specifies a formula for determining COLA. According to the formula, COLAs are based on increases in the Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners and clerical workers, or what's called CPIW. And those CPIWs are calculated on a monthly basis by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Welcome back to Decoding Retirement. I'm speaking with Annalee Kruger, and we're going to pick up where we left off. Annalee, welcome back here.
Thank you.
Before the break, I was talking about how unappealing you made it sound to age in place or age in a care facility. I want to turn my attention to something that a lot of people talk about, but many people don't buy, which is long-term care insurance, which perhaps could help with the possibility of paying for home health aid or paying for a long-term care facility. Do you have any thoughts on long-term care insurance?
I do. I think that it is and I am not a financial advisor, okay? But I am a family caregiver global consultant, and I know the senior care industry, and I just, the cost of care is not going to go down. It just isn't. We have a shortage of healthcare workers, always have and always will, and it's only going to get worse. So I feel like any financial solutions that you can afford is money well spent, because yes, when you look at how much the premium might be, it might be a big number compared, with when you also compare the coverage. But knowing that care is simply not going to be less expensive, I feel like you're going to need something to offset the cost of long-term and future care. Is the reality of, you know, I know it doesn't sound appealing, aging in place at home or moving into a care community, but my point in sharing just what is actually in real life going on in the senior care industry all across the globe, it's important that families know this, or that financial advisors know what's actually going on, so that you can be more prudent with how you talk to your clients, and also knowing the landscape of senior care will help you be a better advisor and add more value when you're incorporating this type of expertise into your planning. It's important that, I know it doesn't sound appealing, but my point in sharing all of those things that are happening in the senior care is so that families and advisors are making informed decisions about, does it make sense to age in place at home? Or does it make sense to, look more proactively at moving proactively into a care community while you're still younger and healthier and more mobile, knowing that the cost of home care is going to be even more expensive. So that's why it's important for people to know what's actually going on out there in the real world so they can make more informed decisions,
Yeah.
and to learn how to be a bold advocate, because no matter when you enter the senior care, whether it's home care or care community level of care, we teach our clients how to be very bold advocates so that you are making so that you get the better care, so that
Yeah.
you can get quality care if you can advocate for yourself or
Yeah.
hire an advocate.
Right. So I want to turn my attention to caregiving. I was in a fellowship program at Columbia University where we described the caregiving problem as a $500 billion problem.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we learned in this fellowship program is that more often than not, um, older adults are relying on their adult children to provide the care. More often than not, it might be the oldest daughter, and in many cases, the oldest daughter is maybe leaving the workforce to provide care and at great risk to their own financial security and retirement security. They're losing wages, they're not contributing to Social Security, they're not contributing to their 401k, they may have trouble re-entering the workforce after they're done providing care to their loved one. Talk more about what unpaid caregivers need to know.
Those are our typical clients who have made some knee-jerk reaction decisions because they didn't know about an aging plan. And so then they'll say, well, Annalee, we took early retirement and now I'm a full-time caregiver. I didn't intend to retire so that I could now stay at home and have to take care of my parents. They were retired, because they wanted to travel or spend time with their grandkids. And so when we talk about that, it's not only the financial toll, which is significant, but what happens is when adult children, like I said in the beginning, get thrust into that caregiving or decide that they have to be the caregiver, because they don't know about what an aging plan is, then what happens from an emotional perspective is that caregiver gets in way over their head, because it's fine if mom and dad just need a little bit of socialization and activity, and they can manage their cares by themselves. But that caregiver snowball that I talk about with in all of my presentations is caregiving starts out manageable until it isn't, and then pretty soon you've got adult kids saying, look, I am not a nurse, and here I am changing dad's catheter bag, or I'm changing his colostomy, or I don't know, dementia, and I'm just trying to keep dad in the house because he has his days and nights mixed up. So these adult kids are finding themselves in these caregiver roles, and they're completely in over their head, and they're finding that they're getting burned out. They're
Yeah.
getting resentful of their siblings because they thought that their siblings would help them with caregiving, and that is not always the case. Or like I said, if you're an only child, then you have all of the responsibility if you don't have an aging plan. And then if you are, traveling back and forth state to state, my typical client is spending $25,000 just in emergency airfare the year before they work with us on an aging plan. Because when you get that crisis call that mom fell again, airfare is not $69 on Frontier. They're paying $1,000 at a time, and taking off work, and having the spouse at home saying, look, I love your parents, but you got to figure something out, because now it's
Yeah.
affecting our finances. All this emergency airfare is affecting our finances, definitely affecting their marriage relationship, because you're not present in the relationship because you're so full of angst about, okay, are mom and dad safe? So there's significant impacts from a financial perspective, an emotional perspective. And you also have to think about, even if you on this podcast if you have aging parents, you need to think about, well, how do I want to remember the last few years of my parents' life? Do you want to remember it as being a burned out, overwhelmed, angry, resentful, broke
Yeah.
caregiver? Or do I want to think about working with someone who can actually put an aging plan in place so that mom and dad are safe, they're happy, they're getting the best quality of care, and I can just be the son or the daughter. I don't have to be the care patrol, the care advocate, the care coordinator, all of that kind of stuff. So those are big things to think about. And then physical challenges. If you're trying to take care of your dad and he's 6'4" and he had a stroke and then he starts falling down, of course you're going to try to catch him, and then the caregiver ends up physically injured as well. That happens all of the time.
Right.
And
So let me interrupt you for a second, Annalee. I want to, because time is short for us, unfortunately. You've mentioned aging plan a number of times. My understanding is that it covers multiple areas: healthcare, housing, legal, financial, et cetera. Walk us through quickly, if you could, what's in the aging plan.
Yeah, so it actually starts with family meetings, to get everybody's perspective, a discovery of what's working well, what's not working well, what are the goals, age in place at home. We want mom and dad to be safe. That's great. But you also need to understand current and future care options and care costs so that you can make informed decisions today about future care. We also do what's called a care matrix, where it's like, okay, mom and dad live in Tucson, but the 4 kids live in 4 different states. Let's have a care matrix done so that we can really make informed decisions. Where can mom and dad get more bang for their buck, but also get better quality of care because we can advocate for them because they live closer. So those are all we outlined. There's over 20 different components to our Care Right comprehensive aging planning, or crisis plan, if you will, because most families come to us in crisis mode. And we also go over the digital grab and go, which is a massively huge checklist of everything that everyone over the age of 18 should have in place, like estate documents, all insurance policies, accounts, passwords, business succession plan, VA paperwork. All of that needs to be organized and in one place. And the value of that then is also that we're doing this hopefully proactively, so that you can be like, oh my gosh, mom and dad never got their power of attorney document signed. So if they wouldn't have had their documents signed, as an example, and they lost capacity, that can cost $20,000 in legal fees to get guardianship, simply because they didn't have estate documents in order proactively. Yeah. So it's very robust, comprehensive, planning.
Right. So Annalee, I really want to thank you for joining us today. But before we leave, I just want to make mention of the importance of, if you're an older adult or a caregiver, working with a team of professionals, whether it's an estate planning attorney or geriatric care managers or someone like yourself, social workers, et cetera. It's really important that you enter this caregiving phase, this aging phase, with a team of professionals. So anyway, Annalee, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom with us. It's so greatly appreciated, and hopefully you'll come back on and we can talk more about aging and dementia and all the fun things that we just talked about.
Yeah, very good. Thank you so much, Bob.
All right, and now it's time for our segment that we call Ask Bob, where we answer readers' questions about money and retirement. So the reader's question goes like this: my 401k plan offers me the chance to invest using something called a managed account. Should I? And the answer is this: a managed account in a 401k plan is an investment option where professional managers select and oversee your investment portfolio based on factors like your age, retirement goals, risk tolerance, and financial situation. But remember, as with all things financial, there are pros and cons to this approach. So if you've got questions about money or retirement, I'm here to help. Send them to askbob@yahoofinance.com, and I'll answer them in future episodes. So that's it for this week's episode of Decoding Retirement. We hope we provided you with some actionable advice to help you better plan for or live in retirement. And don't forget, for the latest retirement news and expert analysis, visit yahoofinance.com.
This content was not intended to be financial advice and should not be used as a substitute for professional financial services.